The Royals became the first team to 60 wins in the American League last night behind a huge body blow by Eric Hosmer in the first inning. The Indians have now lost 7 straight at home and have not lost 8 in a row in Cleveland since 1975. Maybe that was the year. Former Raiders owner Al Davis said for the first time, "Just win, baby." We'll see if the Indians can next on Sports Time Ohio. From Progressive Field in downtown Cleveland, Ohio, the slumping Cleveland Indians try to bust loose tonight against the red-hot Kansas City Royals. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Cleveland has had no luck of late, especially when it comes to playing at home, and it doesn't help when Eric Hosmer comes to town because he's the Royals' version of Miguel Cabrera.
Boy, is he ever. He is hitting everything in sight against the Indians this year, and he has great power the other way. Witnessed last night. Left center field, that first pitch, he jumped on that first fastball, drove in 3 runs on that one, and then comes up in the next at-bat and gets a base hit for a single. So Eric Hosmer had 4 ribbies. He's got 17 ribbies on the year against the Indians, and the all-time leader in a single season is Mike Sweeney with 20, and there's still a long way to go for Hosmer.
Hosmer's got a 9-game hitting streak. He's 18 for 36 during his current tear. It may pale by comparison, but Francisco Lindor has put together a 6-game hitting streak for Cleveland, and quietly he's become their most consistent performer offensively right now.
He's really held his own. He's been fun to watch. Since the All-Star break, he has the most hits of any Indian. He's up there with Kipnis and with Brantley doing his thing, and he's sitting in the number 2 hole. So you would think, okay, he's setting the table, he's doing his thing. But I'll tell you what, he's been fun to watch. He's just a rookie. He's only 21 years old, so he's only going to get better as the season goes along.
Once again, the importance for the Indians to get the lead. To do that, they've got to keep the other guys from scoring early in the ballgame. When we come back, Andre Knott joins us to talk about what Trevor Bauer must do tonight in order to be successful against Kansas City. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by W.B. Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Indians can get things righted here at home tonight against the Kansas City Royals. They were roughed up last night as the Tribe has now dropped 7 straight here at home, their longest losing streak in quite some time. They dropped 7 in a row back in 2011. They haven't lost 8 straight at home since 1975. Big story right now, starting to break. Multiple reports have David Murphy being traded to the Los Angeles Angels. Murphy was in the original Indians starting lineup. He was a late scratch. Let's go down to Andre Knott for the very latest.
It's been very interesting down here over the last half an hour, 45 minutes, as the players are kind of hearing the same news that we're hearing about David Murphy. I've had Tito, I've had Millsy, and I've had different guys saying, hey, what exactly are we doing? I think some of them know, some of them don't want to talk about it, but I can tell you over the last week, David Murphy has been paying attention to it, and he's not surprised that this has happened. But for the team, I think the timing's a little odd because he was in the lineup batting cleanup tonight, but they must move on. And speaking of moving on, it's Trevor Bauer. His last 2 starts, he's given up 5 home runs, guys, and he's struggled a little bit here at home. One of the things I was told tonight is he's got to work on his fastball location. Also, they want him to be less predictable with the pitches and when he uses them. They said sometimes he can be hard at it, and I think after the last 2 starts, he realizes he may have to use some of Danny Salazar's pitches to get through this lineup versus the Royals.
Well, Trevor just has to settle in and get back to what he's used to doing. You know, he's matched up against Chris Young. I'll tell you what, these 2 guys have given up the most home runs in the month of July, tied with 7. So both these guys, we'll see who keeps it in the ballpark tonight on the year. Trevor Bauer, 1-0 in his 2 starts against him. And Chris Young's pitched 4 times against him, twice out of the bullpen, once as a starter. They beat him as a starter. They gave him a loss, the big guy. He can be tough to pick up at sometimes and get base hits, but he's a high fastball guy. He a lot of fly balls with this guy. And Trevor's got to come down and pitch like he's capable of doing. Locate your fastball. He's got the good curveball. You know, keep it simple. Don't start throwing 7, 8 different pitches.
Well, one thing we saw last night, this is an aggressive hitting Kansas City lineup. You can't get away with any kind of get-me-over early pitches in the count. They will jump on them and make you pay. To reiterate, the news involving David Murphy, nothing is official at this point. But normally this time of year where there's smoke, there's fire, and there are multiple outlets reporting that a deal is near, not finished, but a near between the Indians and the Angels that would send David Murphy to the Halos. And there's one report that says the Indians would get a 23-year-old shortstop who's in Double-A right now. You know, it's a situation where this, you know, when you move a guy like a David Murphy who's, you know, he's owed a couple $1 million left on his contract, you're not going to get this isn't a deal where you're looking to get a big haul.
No, you're not going to get I wouldn't think you'd get a major leaguer or anything like that. You may, if they just want to switch and trade, but, you know, Murphy's done at the end of the year. So, you know, for David Murphy, good for him. He's a great guy. You know, they signed him to that 2-year deal, and he served it well.
Trevor Bauer takes the field, and the Indians follow. And we'll take a look at the starting lineup for Ned Yost and the Kansas City Royals. Alcides Escobar in the leadoff spot, followed by Mike Moustakas. Lorenzo Cain batting third. Eric Hosmer cleanup. Henry Morales has done quite a bit of damage against the Indians this year in the 5-hole. Salvador Perez is sixth. Alex Rios, Omar Infante, and Gerard Dyson batting ninth.
Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher is going to be Trevor Bauer. Trevor is 8-7. He's lost his last 2 starts. He's given up 5 home runs in those 2 starts, going a total of 10 innings, giving up 13 hits and 11 runs. So he's looking to come back here, pitch well. He's 3-4 at home, and his ERA is over 6. So that's something that he was pitching very well earlier in the year, and after the second half came back, he's just struggled a little bit, and in the month of July, he's allowed 7 home runs. So we'll see if Trevor can keep it in the ballpark and keep zeros on the board until the offense can score first. Let's check out the defense behind him tonight, which is brought to you by Chrysler. It looks like this. Brantley is in left, Bourne in center, Moss over in right, Urshela at third, Lindor at short, Aviles is at second, Santana at first with Perez doing the catching.
The crew chief, Gary Cedarstrom, has the plate tonight. Tom Woodring at first, Eric Cooper at second, Lance Barksdale down at third. Our window systems, game time temperature, 82 degrees. Light breeze blowing in from center field tonight.
But nice and warm.
Yes, indeed. Johnny Cueto just acquired by the Kansas City Royals from the Cincinnati Red.
No surprise, he's right next to his friend he used to live with in Cincinnati, Edison Volquez, who got the win last night. And then there's Ventura, the young starter that they were looking for to be the number one. And I'll tell you what, that guy's going to take a lot of pressure off, I think, both those guys.
So Kansas City appears to be loading up because not only did they acquire Johnny Cueto, but they also made a move today to acquire Ben Zobrist, who's a super utility guy, can play some infield, play some outfield. So Ned Yost Club making a number of moves to try to bolster their position. They currently lead the Central Division by 8 games over Minnesota. And as we mentioned at the top of the telecast, the only team in the American League with 60 wins, and only St. Louis in all of baseball has more victories right now than Kansas City. Royals have won 3 straight, 7 out of 10. Trevor Bauer on the line, and the first pitch is fouled back. Escobar aggressively going after it. He was 1 for 5 with a double last night. And a strike is called. It's 0-2. Broke his bat, slowly tapped to short. Lindor throws him out, 1 away. So the details on the Ben Zobrist trade, Kansas City acquiring him from Oakland. So Kansas City has dealt 5 minor league pitchers away in the last couple of days to acquire both Johnny Cueto and now Ben Zobrist.
Well, they're going for it all this year. They need, they're trying to cover all their bases, and they may be giving up some prospects, but you don't know how good they'll be, if they will be good at all.
Well, and you look at it right now. From Kansas City's perspective, Omar Infante hasn't exactly set the world on fire at second base. And with Alex Gordon sidelined, Zobrist could maybe help him in left field as well.
Yeah, he can play all over, right.
But the big move for Kansas City was Johnny Cueto. And you see David Murphy there in uniform, so that obviously tells you nothing official at this point. But what's really interesting about this potential trade, if in fact it does go through, is that there's also a report that the Angels have a deal in place with Tampa Bay to acquire David DeJesus. So they could be trading for 2 outfielders, both left-handed hitters.
And they just got Shane Victorino.
Within minutes of each other. And Victorino, too, yeah. It's
hard to figure out, isn't it?
Well, Mike Trout out of the lineup tonight for the Angels. He's got a wrist injury. I don't know if that has any bearing on what the Angels are trying to do here at the deadline or not. The 1-2 pitch to Moustakas is in the dirt. Just a little bit low.
Well, he's going to go with that fastball down and in, a little bit low. Brings it to a full count.
And a foul back. So Moustakas fighting him off. Ground ball, and with the shift on, Giovanni Urshela, third baseman, throws him out. 2 down. Keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. For Trevor Bauer, stay out of the big inning.
Yes.
And for the Indians hitters, make the big guy get it down.
Get it down, or you better be able to get on top of it. The crooked numbers, something that has hurt the Indians this whole homestand, where Chicago came in and they had a couple innings where they put 4 on the board, 3. And, of course, Kansas City had the big inning in the first yesterday.
Kane sends one high and slicing out a play down the right side.
Bring your glove, make a catch, and get high fives.
Out of play to the right. So it is official, from what I understand, the David DeJesus deal. So DeJesus has officially been traded from the Rays to the Angels. And according to this report, Mike Trout is undergoing an MRI on his sore left wrist. Swing and a miss. Bauer strikes out Lorenzo Cain to end the top half of the first inning. Royals go 1-2-3. The Indians are coming to bat. First two to take their swings against Chris Young tonight. Take a look at the rest of the starting lineup, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Michael Brantley batting third. Then it's Carlos Santana, Brandon Moss, Giovanni Urshela, Roberto Perez, Michael Bourne, and Mike Aviles.
Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher is Chris Young. He's making his 21st start, or excuse me, his 16th start. 21st appearance, 2 times coming out of the bullpen, 8-5. He's also given up 7 home runs in the month of July, tied with Trevor Bauer. He's coming off his shortest start of the year. He only went 3 innings, but they used him as a pinch hitter. They pinch hit him. They were playing the St. Louis Cardinals over in the National League, so he didn't last for a long time.
First pitch of the night in there for a strike to Jason Kipnis. Big curveball is up high. 1-1.
With that high fastball that he throws, that's the pitch he tries to take you off the fastball. He's always been a fly ball pitcher. A lot of balls hit in the air.
Kipnis fouls it off.
It's his second start against the Indians this year. He pitched June 4th against them, went 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 6 runs. Walked a pair, struck out 4, also gave up a home run. Moss got him.
Breaking ball, and he got a piece of that, just barely. Now the 1-2. Another breaking ball. This one skips away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Kipnis 3 for 4 last night. Scored a run. And he smacks this one into right field. Rios over to cut it off. And Kipnis with his 4th hit already in the series is aboard to start the bottom of the 1st.
He came with a breaking ball there. Off-speed pitch, and wasn't much to it. Kipnis jumped all over it. They wanted it down and away. That stayed up. Might have been his curveball, so it was elevated.
Up comes Francisco Lindor with a hit in 6 straight. And a ball in the dirt. Seen a bunch of those already from Young.
Let's check out the move from Chris Young. Being as big as he is, you'd think it would take a little while for him to deliver it.
There goes Kipnis. Perez with a good throw down. And Kipnis is out at second base.
They may hold on and take some time and look for it. Perez made a nice throw. Kip is coming in. He's saying, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Slow it down. We want to take a look at it.
Eric Cooper made the call at second base. We'll take another look
He
here.
had a good jump, but it was a very good throw. Here it comes. If he tagged, but see, we can't see you can't see the tag on that angle.
That looked like it would be worth a challenge, that view. Let's see if this tells us anything differently.
No, he got him.
That's a pretty good look.
He got him on the back, that one. They're going to go back into the dugout, I would think. That got him right before. That was an accurate throw. Quick tag. Kipnis thrown out trying to steal.
Now the 1-1 to Lindor. Low and away. Call to strike over the outside corner. And it's 2-2. Chase one in the dirt. Perez will have to throw to first. 2 down.
Check that Royals defense, which is brought to you by Chrysler. Behind Young tonight, it's Dyson in left field. It's Kane in center, Rios over and right. Moustakas at third. Escobar at short, Infante at second. Hosmer at first. Perez catching.
Michael Brantley last night was 1 for 3 with a couple of walks. And I don't think there was any coincidence in that either. Brantley is a career .335 hitter against the Royals with 6 homers and 46 runs batted in. And he's tied for the league lead in doubles as you take a look at our stat of the game brought to you by Buick.
Well, he's definitely the guy at the Royals. If they come up with a situation and Brantley has a chance to drive it in or beat you, they will pitch around him and go to the guy behind him.
Hammered fouled on the right side. And it's 1-2. Now the 1-2 offering. It's inside off the dish. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Way out in front of home plate. That one
That's a good 4 feet shy of the dish.
It sure looked like it. Well, you know what? He's trying to find it. He's having a tough time throwing that curveball for a strike. So if you throw it, he hung one, and Brantley took it right down the line. He wanted to make sure he gets it down, and that's one way to do it. But, a big guy sometimes has to search for his mechanics early in a ball game until something clicks in.
And a bouncer up the middle. Brantley has a 2-out single to keep the inning alive.
Brantley works the count, goes deep as always, and then he gets a pitch to his liking, finds it, goes right up the middle with a base hit. Second hit in the inning. 2-out single there for Brantley. Gives Santana a chance now.
Santana takes down an in ball 1. Carlos homered last night for the Indians, giving him 11 dingers on the year. Kia in the driver's seat shows you Santana's put up good power numbers against Kansas City.
Well, 2 years ago, I believe he had a...
Brantley takes off, throw to second base, not in time. Michael with his 10th stolen base on the year.
Well, they're going to try and run. Just because you're throwing out, you don't stop. Brantley gets his 10th stolen base, had a very good job, and Perez had a tough pitch to throw, was short hopped. Still did a nice job to get it down there, but Brantley gets himself in scoring position.
Now the 2-0. Called a strike over the outside edge, 2-1. And another strike evens the count of 2-2. Two-two pitch, and that's low, a full count. Brandon Moss waits on deck. 2 down, bottom of the first, no score. Chris Young. 12 out of 22 pitches for strikes, so almost 50-50 here in the first inning. And that's ball 4.
Yeah, he tried to make the perfect pitch, and he bounced it. So the walk to Santana. And that brings up Brandon. He'll have an opportunity with 2 outs. Moss, a .294 hitter against Young with 4 homers and 6 RBI out of his 5 hits. 4 have left the yard.
Runners both go. Throw down to second on the trail run, and the ball pops loose. It was going to be close. And the Indians with a double steal here have 2 in scoring position now.
I'm trying to think of why you're running in that situation. You got a left-hander up. He chooses to go. He sees Brantley's jump to go to second base, which is the right move. If he holds on to the ball, he's out. Escobar took his eye off of it to try and go for the tag. You see him? He took his eye off of it, and Santana slides in safety. It bounces out, but they're in second and third. So 2 more stolen bases.
I think Terry Francona is just saying, hey, we got to try everything and anything possible. You can't sit back and wait. This is an offense they've been waiting all year long.
I understand that, but with a left-hander up, third base was wide open. But he went down to second, which was the right move.
Another ball that was a good 4 feet in front of the plate.
Yeah, he's having a tough time. He has thrown 12 balls, 14 strikes. And this one, you don't bounce fastballs. That looked like a fastball.
Sure did. Just missed outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Low. Yeah, he's having a tough time. He knows this guy has got him 4 times before.
Now the 2-2. That was in the dirt again. Full count.
Yeah, he's talking to himself now. He is dead even on the balls and strikes out of his 28 pitches.
Well, Brandon Moss with a full count, first base open.
You know, I'd be surprised if he just doesn't try and throw a curveball. Just first base is open.
He did, and he strikes him out with it. Second strikeout of the inning, and the Indians leave 2 in scoring position. And after an inning, no score in Cleveland.
Smartphone or tablet. Stay connected with live radio broadcast stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Well, we go now to the second inning. No score. Eric Hosmer to lead it off. Hosmer 3 for 5 with a home run last night. Didn't go. 1-1.
This is a guy that likes to get after it early. You know, you look at this Kansas City Royal team, Matt, they've only walked 211 times. That's last in the league in walks. But they don't care. They get up there and they get after it. They like that pitch early. 130 more walks for the Indians. That's hard to believe, but they come in and they can.
They take to hit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. A hit to take.
In the dirt, full count. Fastball inside, and Hosmer just takes it the other way.
Well, 95-mile-an-hour heater, and he just takes it the other way. You know, you get to 2 strikes and watch him. It's about belt high. That was down on the trademark, and he just strong enough and fights it the other way. Gets another base hit. First hit for the Royals tonight.
Morales almost went after it, and third base umpire Lance Barksdale said he didn't.
Well, take a peek and see what you think. Wow. Caught a break there, huh?
Yeah.
There's no way he went on that one, but it's only the first pitch. That's the way you look at it as a hitter.
Into the teeth of the shift, Lindor to Urshela, who turns 2. 6-5-3 on the double play. You know, what's interesting, Rick, is that check swing changes the complexion of perhaps that at bat, because once they got the strike, then they shifted.
Okay.
If they hadn't gotten that call, I'm not sure they would have been in the perfect position that they were to turn that double play.
Break for the Indians right there.
Player profile brought to you by Levin Furniture, a 16-year-old out of Venezuela. That's when the Royals inked Salvador Perez, and it has been a tremendous investment. He's become, and you hope physically he holds up, but he's just become an absolute plow horse. I mean, he never comes out of the lineup.
No, it's true. He's like, you know, the screen or the cage they put up for hitting, batting practice? That's what it's like when he's back there. He smothers everything. You can't get a ball by him. Rarely. But, yeah, he is out there every day.
He smashes this one, but he hooks it foul.
Remember, he missed a lot of time a couple of years ago with that knee issue at the surgery.
That's right. Let's go down to Andre.
The other thing about Perez and going to their clubhouse the last couple of days, and even earlier when they were here, he is the leader.
Yes.
Hands down, when he walks in the clubhouse, everything stops and Glenn revolves around what he says.
Line drive to right field. Moss makes the head-high catch. Bauer gets a double play ball, and we go to the bottom of the second. No score.
To all fans at Progressive Field, the $13 district tickets. It's presented by Sports Time Ohio. They're going quickly, so get yours today. Tickets available only at Indians.com.
Giovanni Urshela will bat here to lead off the second inning. He said he went around. It's 0-2. Urshela has hit in 6 straight.
Boy, he's bouncing a lot of pitches early. He's certainly making a conscious effort to try and keep it down.
High pop foul out of play.
So I told you, he's coming off the shortest start of the year, 3 innings against the Cardinals, so he wants some distance. He wants to give him some length.
Now the 1-2 offering. Back out of play. It's an age-old axiom in baseball that you don't worry about things that are beyond your control. Easier said than done. And you have to wonder if in the back of Chris Young's mind there is any doubt as to whether his role will be changed or diminished with the acquisition of Johnny Cueto. Those who follow the club feel like he's potentially the odd man out. He could be headed to the bullpen when Cueto makes his first start.
Yeah, that very well could happen. Well, the next 5 starters they have is Guthrie, Duffy, Cueto, Ventura, and Volquez.
High fly ball left field. Playable for Dyson. 1 away. Well, this was a true blockbuster, I guess, because Troy Tulowitzki is one of the best hitters in the National League. He goes to Toronto on a lineup already loaded with pretty good hitters. Jose Reyes goes the other way to Colorado, and how about 42-year-old LaTroy Hawkins also joining the Blue Jays? And there was talk right away, as soon as this deal was done, there was talk that the Rockies might turn around and spin Reyes off to the Mets, where he came from originally. Also talk that Carlos Gonzalez, a.k.a. Cargo, is available.
Well, on Colorado, they got to make some changes. They got to do something. I don't know what they have in their minor league system at short.
Out of play.
But if you were there in that position and you were a pretty good shortstop and you're looking up at the big leagues and you have Troy Tulowitzki up there, you're thinking, boy, oh boy, I may never get there.
Yeah.
So they got to be thrilled, whoever's playing short down in their minor league system, when you think about it.
Two-one pitch, swing and a miss. That'll even the count. Inside, almost hit him. And a full count.
Boy, Young's already at 41 pitches here into the second inning with only one out. 4 full counts so far. Helped him out.
He sure did. Chased one in the dirt. Third strikeout for Young. 2 down.
It's the slider that he gets Perez to chase. You see it going straight down. Swings over the top of it. Well, Young already with 3 strikeouts.
Ripped into right field. Michael Bourne with a base hit. Two-out single keeps the inning alive.
Check it out on our Nissan pitch tracker right down the middle. So Bourne gets a good one to hit. He hits it into right field. A 2-out single again. Second inning in a row they've been able to do that. 7 for 12. Nice.
And he's 7 for his last 23 since the All-Star break.
Well, they were off and running in the first inning. See if they're going to continue to do it with Young on the mound. Kansas City realizes that now, so they're going to make him throw over. He's about between 1-3, 1-4 to home plate. And average is 1-3. And got to pay a little more attention to the base runners now. Because all you want to do is you give Salvador Perez an opportunity, and you can see the strength of his arm. He's got a great, accurate arm.
Bourne not running, and Mike Aviles takes a strike.
Shortened it up that time, threw a slide step on him.
Aviles was not in the original starting lineup, but with the late change, David Murphy was pulled from the lineup. Jason Kipnis went to the DH spot. And then Terry Francona inserting Mike Aviles into the lineup, putting him at second base, batting him ninth. Again, if you joined us late, nothing official to report, but various reports have the Indians trading David Murphy to the Angels. Bourne takes off. Pitches in the dirt, no chance for Perez. 4th stolen base of the night already for Cleveland.
You can see that's their game plan. They're wasting no time. Bourne had a good jump, and there's no chance for Perez. So the ball was in the dirt, and he didn't even attempt.
Mike Aviles with a runner in scoring position now. Trying to snap an 0 for 14 at the plate, and he takes the ball low, 3-1. And he takes the walk. 2 on, 2 out. And Jason Kipnis coming to the plate.
Well, Kipnis, after he let off with the single, was thrown out. But they didn't stop there. Brantley with 2 outs goes down and steals a base. And then they had a double steal. They tried to throw through at second base. Escobar drops it. And then in comes Bourne. 4 stolen bases. We're only in the second inning. Been caught 1 time. So they have runners at first and second now.
Yeah, you'll take 4 out of 5 every day, won't you?
Oh, absolutely. 3 out of 4, 70%, 75% is good. You're at 80. Let's go. That's beautiful.
And we're only in the second inning.
Yeah.
Although at the rate Young's going, he's not long for this game.
No, he's not.
Even though he hasn't given up a run. He's closing in on 50 pitches here already. Kipnis rifled a single to right field his first time up. He's 4 out of 5 in the series. Boy, the White Sox jumped on Boston again. 5 runs in the first at Fenway.
Boy, they got rolling. They scored 10 last night in their win. I think they had about 4 or 5 in the first again, didn't they, yesterday?
I think it was 4. It was 4-0, and then, yeah, because that game went back and forth for a while. Yeah, they won 10-8 in the final White Sox over the Red Sox last night. Matt Albers got the win, the former Indian for Chicago.
Hey, hey, hey.
The 1-1 in the dirt.
He just looks like he doesn't want to throw his fastball for a strike. A lot of breaking pitches, balls in the dirt. You got to wait him out.
It's 3-1.
He will not be long for this game. There's Ned Yost taking a little stroll. He's sick of watching it already.
The pitch. Kipnis caught him in between. He went after it, full count.
Wasn't a fastball, though. It was a slider. Nine out of the first 10 batters for the Indians have seen 5 pitches or more.
Runners go, and Kipnis slapped it foul out of play. Well, the runner should be off on this 3-2 pitch. And a foul back again by Kipnis. Tribe had second and third with 2 down in the first, and on a 3-2 pitch, Brandon Moss was called out on a pitch that was, let's just say, borderline at best.
Yeah, that left 2 stranded. They left 4 stranded in the first 2 innings last night as well. 6 in the first 3.
Shoots it foul.
Well, he's not tricking him.
Already see guys stretching in the Kansas City bullpen.
Yeah, they know.
Again, the 3-2. Ed Kipnis with a liner to right, and it's caught by Rios. No runs, a hit, 2 more left. After 2, no score in Cleveland. The dugout. If you joined us late, multiple reports indicating that Murphy is about to be dealt to the Angels, but nothing official at this point. And of course, there were reports right about the time the game started that Angels were firing moves on all cylinders, weren't they?
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Traded for Shane Victorino yesterday or the day before.
Uh-huh.
And then just before the game, it sounded like that was an official trade where they acquired David DeJesus, while at the same time trying to acquire David Murphy.
Well, we still got some time. Trading deadline Friday at 4 o'clock.
Rios a swing and a miss, and I mean Trevor Bauer made quick work of him. 3 pitches, 1 away, second strikeout for Bauer. Injury report today brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Tribe called up Michael Roth from AAA Columbus. He was in the big league camp with the Indians this spring. He pitched with the Angels last year a little bit. Jesus Aguilar went back to AAA Columbus, and Nick Hagedorn was moved to the 60-day disabled list. Hagedorn had surgery. He's not expected back for 6 to 9 months. Omar Infante, 1 for 4 with a home run last night, his first of the season. To right field, long run for Moss, and he makes the catch. A terrific effort by Brandon Moss, sprinting into the right field corner, and he takes extra bags away from Infante.
Boy, a nice running catch by Brandon. He, at the last minute, puts that glove hand out and snags it on the dead run. Good play. That's extra bases. That's a double in full stride. That'll be out number 2. Good running catch.
And that's one of your pointers for all outfielders, especially young kids that are just starting to play the game. You always say on a fly ball, sprint to the ball, then put your glove out.
At the last minute, that's right. And when you're on a dead run, the longer you put when you start running with your glove out like you're going to catch it, it slows you down. Yeah. You keep running as fast as you can like a sprinter, and then all of a sudden you put it out there in stride.
Bauer throwing a lot of strikes here, especially early in the count, getting ahead. Here's the 0-2 offering. Down in the dirt. Dyson tripled last night. He's a guy with his speed. If he can pull it inside the bag at first and get it down the right field line, you're going to be hard-pressed to keep him from going to third base.
Well, he had that triple last night when he hit it down at the right field corner. Ooh, right in the mask.
No thanks, huh?
Well, he acted like it was no big deal. Checking to make sure that thing's not loose.
Let me make sure my face is still in place. Now the 1-2 offering. Missed inside. Got him looking. Trevor Bauer with his 3rd strikeout of the night. And first time through the lineup, the Royals go just 1 for 9 against him. Stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Pablo Sandoval is in a home run for Boston. They've pulled it within 5-2 of the White Sox. They're in the second inning at Fenway. Francisco Lindor struck out his first time up. Hard hit ball to second, scooped up by Infante. One away. Let's go down to Andre for more on Royals right-hander Chris Young.
You know, in April and May, one of the best discoveries that the Royals made was Chris Young. But since June 1st, he started 10 games, pitched 54 innings. He has an ERA of 4.64. Then you can look at the guy that's starting tomorrow, Jeremy Guthrie, who's had a 4.25 ERA since June 1st. You want to know why they made the trades they've made so far for starting pitching?
Yeah.
It's because these two guys have struggled, and these are two guys the Indians will see tonight and tomorrow.
Well, Chris Young has been a guy where, if you remember last year, he was with Seattle, got off to a very good start in the first half. He was that way when he was with San Diego. He's always been a guy that seems to get off to a good start for whatever reason and then taper off later on. And the same thing is holding true now.
Brantley with a ground ball, hard hit. Infante again makes the play, 2 down.
Well, KeyBank Kids tickets start at just $10 for kids 12 and under with the purchase of an adult ticket. The tickets are located in the new family deck here at Progressive Field, so log on to Indians.com/kids tickets today.
Now, to add to what Andre was talking about, in particular with Chris Young, in his career, his ERA after the All-Star break is a full run higher than before the All-Star break.
All right. Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Swing and a miss by Santana, 1-1 to count.
There you go. 51 and 35 in the first half. Just a game under 500 in the second. That one run means a lot.
Santana was trying to take advantage of the shift. It's 1-2.
And I'm going to tell you why I don't like that with 2 outs. He's not going to steal second base. This guy's given up 7 home runs in the month of July. Let's just go out there and swing the bat, man. 2 outs, hit a double. Leading off an inning, different story. Not with 2 outs.
There is the call. And the 2-2 is swung on and missed. 4th strikeout for Chris Young. He retires the side in order here in the 3rd. They're going to tell us why the Indians are struggling at home.
They are.
There'll be a recap of the Larry Doby statue ceremony and MLB's plans to rejuvenate the game of baseball. It's all after the game right here on Sports Time Ohio. Alcides Escobar takes a strike. Grounded to short, his only time up.
Well, Bauer has been aggressive tonight. He's been using his fastball, to me, a lot more. Establishing, he started him off the slider the second time, which is fine, but it was for a strike. Comes right back with a fastball, and he's down in the count 0-2. Bauer now pounding the strike zone. 31 of his 41 pitches are for strikes.
Way
Nice.
out in front. Boy, did he have him fooled badly. Fourth strikeout for Trevor Bauer.
And it's going to be our Circle K strikeout on the hook. Straight down, you get him to swing and miss. He got him on the curveball the first time with a little weak swing, so he says, all right, I've got you down in the count 0-2. I'm going to bounce one, see if you like it. He chases after it. Fourth strikeout.
One away from Mike Moustakas, who swings and misses.
Bauer continues.
Elevated the fastball
His
through it
first
by
pitch
him.
strikes. 11 for 11.
Here's a broken bat foul ball into the seats. Wow. That one will go to the burn pile.
There you go. That's a nice sign right there. Tell you what, Bauer and Perez are in really good rhythm right now.
Moustakas back with a new piece of lumber. Down on the count 0-2. This is in the air, left center. Long run for Brantley, but he's able to close the gap. 2 down.
Only 2 more Fridays left this season. The pregame with the $2 domestic cans of beer in the right field district. Fans can get 12-ounce cans for $2 from 5 to 7 on August 7th, also August 18th. Just go to Indians.com.
Lorenzo Cain struck out his first time up, and he looks at ball 1. Cain was only 1 for 3 last night, but he walked a couple of times, and that was costly because he came around to score 3 runs. Moss on the dead sprint, warning track. What a catch! Crashed into the wall, lost the ball, and the ball's in play. Cain rounds second. He'll head to third, and he'll go in sliding with a triple.
Might have hurt his ankle. Going up against the wall, landed funky, and that ball came out. I thought he had it in his glove. What a great attempt.
I think he did, and the wall jarred it loose.
Yeah, that
Let's
very
take
well
another
could have
look.
been. That very well could have been. Let's look at the real speed first. You're right, he had it. He was ready to turn that glove around, hits the wall, and it comes out.
How many strides is a catch?
Well, that I don't think.
1, 2,
Well, he may go out.
3.
They may go out and challenge it. Tito is there. It happened so quickly, you just see the ball come out and you say no. So
Can the wall cause a fumble?
I don't know. I think Terry's going to go ask him.
Gary Cederstrom has that sort of perplexed look like, yeah, I'm not sure on this one.
You know what?
He took three. I counted at least three full strides.
He had
with
it
the
in
ball.
his glove, and then when he hit the ball, it came out. Now, I don't know if you have to show him or nobody saw the ball where he had it.
He's going to ask him to take a look at it.
All right, good. Why not?
I think it's a good challenge.
I do, too. You could be out of the inning right here. And you know what? When you slow it down and you see how many steps he took, I want to look at it again. Full speed. One. Now, hold on. Let's see if he's got it.
3.
And hits the wall. And then it comes out after he hits the wall. This is going to be interesting.
You could almost count the wall as a fourth stride. 1, 2, 3, 4.
This is going to be interesting. What a great effort. I mean, to begin with. It was in the glove. He wasn't bobbling.
3. And then the fourth stride hits the wall, and it pops out on contact with the fence.
Now, do you have to turn around and show the umpire? I mean, before you have it under control. I don't know. I don't think we've had one like this before.
Well, it looks like a quick decision, doesn't it?
Yeah. They're not going to overturn it. So it goes as a triple.
All right. It begs the question, what is control then? How many strides?
You know, I wish
counts?
somebody would go ask the umpire after a game.
It's almost like the football rule. If he would have fallen to the ground, would he have had to maintain possession through the catch? Because that's kind of like what the wall did in that instance. He had it for 3 strides plus the one that took him into the fence.
I don't know what the ruling is there. I know one thing. It was an outstanding effort, and he had the ball in his glove, but the wall does jar it
2,
loose.
3, fourth stride into the wall, and it pops loose. So with 2 down, Eric Hosmer, the batter, in the dirt. A liner and just beyond the reach of a leaping Lindor, and the Royals take advantage. They score the game's first run on a 2-out RBI single by Eric Hosmer. Who else? His 18th run batted in against the Indians this year. Just past a leaping Lindor. And just like that, Kansas City has the lead.
Well, again, Hosmer goes the other way and fights it off. And that's a big 2-out hit. And look at Bauer, can't believe it. Yeah, he made a good pitch, but boy, sometimes you tip your cap and Kansas City gets on the board with 2 outs and nobody on, and a ball that was in the glove and hit the wall and came out.
Right field, Moss. He's got this one, and the inning is over. Royals score first, lead at 1-0, middle of the 4th. STO Data Strong fan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming telecast brought to you by T-Mobile. Well, David Murphy is getting hugs in the Tribe dugout, which would seem to indicate it's an official deal.
It's a done deal now. You got that right.
He's saying his goodbyes.
Yep.
Brandon Moss, a swing and a miss, and just to go back to the play on the ball that Moss nearly caught from Lorenzo Cain, as he hammers one deep and fouled on the right side. Because he didn't voluntarily get the ball out of his glove, if you crash into the wall and drop the ball, it's not a catch. You've got to hold it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
You've got to voluntarily take it out of the glove.
Okay.
Or establish that you've got it. If you run into the wall and it pops out, no catch, according to the letter of the rule.
Well, he couldn't voluntarily get it because he ran into that wall, and it did pop out.
And strike three called. Fifth strikeout for Chris Young, and he is starting to settle in now. He's retired 5 in a row. I mean, as you said, it's a heck of an effort. And he had it for 4 strides, but it doesn't matter because he ran into the wall and didn't maintain possession.
If he falls down on his back, if he's still in the glove, you just hold it up, he's out.
Yeah.
Either that or you take the bare hand and pull it out and he's out. But
or even if he wouldn't have hit the wall, if he would have just fallen down and it popped out, same rule applies.
Right. I didn't know there was a step or any kind of number of steps or how many you take to.
No, but it just you would assume. Like, remember last year, that was the issue last year with the transfer.
They changed that in a
catch.
heartbeat.
It was a catch, and then the guy, I forget who was our outfielder at the time in right field, that made the play. He was here for a short time.
I know the play you're talking about.
But he was Elliott Johnson. He took about 4 or 5 strides and then went into the glove to pull it out, and it came out. And they ruled it was no catch.
Well, that was different, though. That's when they were saying you had to show possession around second base and everywhere you take the glove out.
2 quick outs here in the 4th inning. Roberto Perez with the third baseman back, but again with 2 outs. Did he pull that back in time?
I thought so.
Okay.
Yeah. Quick pitch to him.
Wow.
Perez
did get time. I didn't think he was going to get it.
That's because the umpire saw it and he realized it. He called timeout before he tried to start with a 2-0 count. Get set. Now you're ready. Now he's going to make him wait.
Perez trying to drive one to the gap in left center field, but Lorenzo Cain runs it down. A 10-pitch 4th for Chris Young. 7 straight retired by Kansas City's big right-hander.
by the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Kansas City on top 1-0. Fifth inning. Salvador Perez leads off and takes a strike. Oh, and 2.
He's had a number of 0-2 counts tonight.
Well, he's pitching ahead. He's pitching with a purpose tonight. You know,
Well, he's aggressive with the fastball.
That's his, aggressive, but then goes at him with the hammer to put him away. He's had a pretty good curveball that he's able to get him to chase a number of times. Not
8 0-2 counts.
Not that time with Perez.
That second time, too, he's not afraid to mix in that little get-me-over slider for strike one.
Boy, he just jammed him with a pretty good fastball and broke his bat. One away.
There's the curveball for a break in there for a strikeout. Another one. He's got a good one, too, boy. There's the fastball. And another breaking ball. So 3 out of the 4 strikeouts on the curveball.
Rios struck out in the 3rd inning.
He made quick work of him, too.
Kind of a half swing there, and Aviles will throw him out, 2 down. Tomorrow afternoon, we wrap up the 3-game series in the homestand. Jeremy Guthrie will go for Kansas City. Corey Kluber will go for Cleveland. Alan Jensen start our day at 11:30 with Indians Live. First pitch 12 o'clock right here on Sports Time Ohio. 2 down for Omar Infante.
And after the ball game, it's second and last trip out to the West Coast. 4 in Oakland, 3 in L.A.
So we'll see David Murphy pretty quick. Again, if you joined us late to news right at the start of the game, not official yet. We haven't heard official word, but the Indians reportedly have dealt David Murphy to the Angels. 7 pitches, and Trevor Bauer mows him down here in the 5th. 1-0 Kansas City. Bottom of the 5th inning. Michael Bourne singled, stole a base in the 2nd inning. Right now, though, Chris Young is settling in. He has set down 7 in a row.
Struggled early. Almost, what do you have, 57 pitches after 2 innings.
Line drive, base hit right back up the middle, and Michael Bourne stays locked in at the plate. 2 for 2 tonight. And since the All-Star break, Bourne is now 8 for 24. So the trade is now official. David Murphy goes to the Angels, and former Dublin High School product Eric Staymetz comes to the Indians. Staymetz at Double-A, batting .248 this year. Staymetz missed 6 weeks earlier this year with a dislocated left shoulder and torn labrum. Staymetz played collegiately at the University of Evansville in Indiana, which also produced Andy Bennis and Jerry Sloan. Threw you a bone there, Dr. Jack.
What? I was sorry. I was listening
Jerry
to somebody.
Sloan.
Oh, I was.
Went to
I'm sorry.
Same college as Staymetz.
Somebody was talking to me in my ear.
Is that a problem for you usually?
Yeah, well, yes.
Do you talk back to
voices.
do you talk back to these people?
Occasionally. I happen to be that today.
Well, Bourne had a good jump, but Aviles found it back. Indians, when they had base runners in the first 2 innings, they ran at will against Chris Young. They stole 4 out of 5. But Bourne's the first base runner since Mike Aviles walked with 2 outs in the 2nd. Bunted foul by Aviles. And the 1-2. He shoots it to right field. Rios over near the line. Makes the grab. 1 away. Let's go back down to Andre Knott.
Yes, you know, we're talking about Jason Kipnis, and he won an award here, the Heart and Hustle Award. He said to me earlier today, he says, the award means everything to me. Giving me my all every night is the one thing I can control in this game, and I always will play hard. And that's one thing you know about Jason Kipnis. You'll get 100% from him every single night, so he appreciated winning this award tonight.
Yeah, congratulations to him.
Well, he's up now with a chance to do some damage, perhaps. He tried to open it up in that 2nd inning with 2 on and 2 out. Hit a line drive, but it was at Rios who made the catch to end the 2nd inning in right field. Bourne, good jump, but the pitch out. Perez's throw is offline, and Michael Bourne has his 2nd stolen base of the night, his 9th on the year. Even with the pitch out, they couldn't get him.
Well, sometimes, you know, as a catcher, you get that pitch out, and he still had a great jump. And he was running, and the throw was to the shortstop side. You could see how upset Perez was. He'd have to throw it right to the second base side to get him because of the jump. 5 stolen bases now for the Indians.
Rick, I don't know if I've ever seen a base stealer slide into a base harder than Michael Bourne.
That's a late slide. That means, you know, he went feet first, so.
Yeah.
That just means when you go in that hard, you're sliding maybe a step late.
He goes in there like he's mad at it.
Well, you can't be mad at it. Those things are awfully hard, those bases.
Yeah, they don't give.
No. I mean, you can't pop them out, but boy, if you don't land right, and you slide over the top of it, you can bang up a knee or a shin.
Bourne takes off for third. And the throw. Bourne is safe, and he's going to score the tying run. Oh, how about the aggressiveness of one Michael Bourne? His third stolen base of the night, and it leads to the Tribe's first run. The error, I suppose, will be charged to Perez. It was a pretty good-looking throw.
You know what? And maybe he charged him to Moustakas because he knocked it out. The throw was there, I think, and he knocked it out and sliding into it.
Oh, no.
He had it. I think he had it in his glove.
Looked like it.
And then Bourne coming in. If he holds on, he's out. Oh, he never caught it. I don't know. We'll see. You might be right, though. They may give it to Perez. It is. Stolen base, and it's an error on Perez. I thought he had the ball, to be honest with you. And then with the momentum of Bourne coming in, he couldn't hold on to it. So another stolen base.
Kipnis punches one into center field. He's got a base hit, his second of the night. Francisco Lindor with our great clip of the game from last night. 3-run homer, his fourth on the year. Showing some pretty good power. He's 0 for 2 tonight. I'm curious to see how the Indians are going to play this the way they've been running on Chris Young. Now, Kipnis was caught, but it took a perfect throw to get him in that first inning.
Well, he knows he is. He'll slide step. He'll do whatever he can. And you see, he may rush himself. You just remain patient. If you're Lindor, he's quite a bit quicker with the slide step. But boy, you know, deep in his mind, he is. It's a track meet out there.
Foul, got a piece of it. Young already 90 pitches on the night, so the Kansas City bullpen begins to get loose.
Yeah, we felt that back in the second inning. If he got 5, that would be a break.
Lindor pops it up. Charging in, Kane, he's on a dead sprint and makes the catch. With that breeze blowing in, a ball that probably would have been a routine catch in center field, he had to run a long way to go get it. 2 down. Franklin Morales, left-hander getting loose for KC. That in and of itself tells you how good the Kansas City Royals bullpen is. As that pitch is up and away. The fact that he's getting loose, because he's the only left-hander they have in their bullpen. And with a team like the Indians with as many left-handed hitters, you would think a manager would save that lefty for a key spot. But he's got guys from the 7th inning on. He doesn't have to match up with them,
right?
Because they're so good.
Right. They got guys that get outs. They don't care if you hit left or right-handed.
Wade Davis right now is on such a roll that he'd probably be closing for 95% of the teams in the league, or in baseball. But Greg Holland is the lights-out closer for KC. He has 3 blown saves on the year. And then you've got Luke Hochevar.
Herrera.
You've got Herrera. Ryan Madsen.
Yeah. I don't think Yost really does a lot of matching up except right here, and he would be on, I would think, for Moss if Brantley can continue it. Unless he brings him out for Santana to bring him over to the right side of the plate.
But here again, what we talked about last night, the one problem Kansas City has in their quest to win the division, get back to the playoffs, potentially get back to the World Series, their starters are not getting deep into the game. Great bullpen. Nobody debates it. But if their starters don't give them more length, is that bullpen going to run out of gas at some point?
Well, only time will tell.
Now the 3-1. Ball 4.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go get him.
Here comes Ned Yost. And he's already signaled to the bullpen.
He gave Young his opportunity to go 5 innings. He couldn't do it. The speed, the error ends up allowing the Indians to score. And he's going to try and keep it right there at 1-1.
Young gives. Rewind. Michael Bourne running wild tonight. Stole a base in the second. Stole 2 in the 5th. And on this stolen base, the throw got away and he came home to score. The 3 stolen bases are the most in a single game this year by a Cleveland Indians player.
Well, you see what happens when you can apply some pressure to a defense. Exactly what happens. And you're doing it against a good catcher. Obviously, you steal the bases off the pitcher. But that's how you get your run. Bourne got a single, ended up stealing second, stealing third. The error brings him home. Franklin Morales now on for the 42nd time, the left-hander. Kansas City had their bullpen streak stopped last night at 14 1/3 consecutive scoreless innings on the home run off of Joe Blanton by Lindor. But the pen has been so good. Just 2 earned runs in the last 26 2/3 innings. So you're into it here in the 5th, though.
And because we know what the rest of that bullpen behind him can do, even though there are 2 outs, this is a huge at bat right here for Santana. Because if you can take the lead here, you've got a fighting chance.
He
Slowly
will.
chopped. It's going to load the bases. Kipnis to third, Brantley to second. Santana safe on the infield single.
Well, I mean, he didn't hit it like he wanted to, but he topped that curveball, and it's just like a swinging bunt. Nothing Moustakas could do. He wisely holds on to it. Santana will beat it out. The bases are loaded. That gives Brandon Moss an opportunity.
Left-handers are only batting .128 against Franklin Morales this year. This has been his specialty. Moss pops the first pitch up, shallow left. Out goes the third baseman Moustakas, and the inning is over. Indians get on the board. They leave them loaded, and after 5, we're tied at 1. Our Data Strong fan photo of the game. Don't forget, you can tweet your fan photo to hashtag STO Data Strong Fan for a chance to be featured in one of our telecasts brought to you by T-Mobile. Well, we go now to the top half of the 6th, and Gerard Dyson to lead it off. Struck out his only time up.
Well, at least Bauer can come back as a tie ball game now.
And his 61st pitch of the night is fouled away on the bunt attempt. Happy birthday wishes tonight to Shannon Marquette in Perrysburg, Ohio, celebrating her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Winding down, only a couple of days left here in July. Swinging a foul back. No, the bat went back. The ball went in the glove of Perez.
This is the guy you want to keep off base, especially leading off the inning with his speed.
Oh, on the follow through, he whacked Roberto Perez on the helmet. But it's a strikeout, number 5 for Trevor Bauer.
It's been a very effective pitch for Trevor Bauer tonight, the curveball. 4 of the 5 strikeouts are coming off of that pitch. But he sets it up, gets to 2 strikes. Able to get the aggressive Kansas City offense to swing and miss. It's been unbelievable on first pitch strikes tonight. 17 out of 18. Make it 18 out of 19. And then in turn, that's led to 11-0-2 counts. You can't ask for much better than that. Mickey Callaway's got to be thrilled with that. Oh, he got one, Andre. That a boy. Holy smokes. It was slow enough for him. He's feeling real good about himself now.
Swing and a miss. Another Royals hitter goes fishing and can't come up with it. A half dozen Ks for Bauer. 2 down in the inning. In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. It was a 2-out RBI single by Eric Hosmer that got the Royals on the board first. And then Michael Bourne creating with his legs. A couple of stolen bases and came home on the ball that got away. And now a bloop towards second base, and Mike Aviles with the shift on makes the play. How about that? Just 8 pitches. And Trevor Bauer flies through the 6th. Returns Saturday in a game you'll only see on Fox Sports 1. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Well, we head to the bottom of the 6th, and Kansas City back to the bullpen. Franklin Morales worked a third of an inning, gave up 1 hit, but got the all-important third out to get out of the jam. And now Ryan Madsen, right-hander, coming on. Look at that. 43 games. He's got a 1.77 ERA.
Yeah, he's fit in nicely over there. Opposition hitting just 181. Madsen has appeared in 5 games against the Indians this year, covering 5 1/3 innings. Only allowed 4 hits, a couple of runs. Fastball, good changeup. See ya. Oh, wow.
It's going to bloop in for a base hit.
How about that?
Giovanni Urshela is aboard for the Indians to start here in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Boy, you hit down on that ball and watch it bounce. Look at that thing. Over the head of Hosmer. He was looking up at it. He didn't know what to do. Hit out in front of the plate and took off. So a base hit for him. You got the leadoff man aboard here in the 6th.
Roberto Perez takes a strike. Let's go down to Andre Knott.
You know, on Saturday, Terry Francona kind of surprised some of us when he mentioned Roberto Perez. He says, look, I was going to get all the righties I could in my lineup against Chris Sale. He goes, and I thought about putting Roberto Perez in there because he's liked his approach over the last couple of weeks. And he said against a guy like Sale, you want somebody that's just not taking a big swing, but willing to go the other way. They like how he's settled into this role.
Downstairs.
Well, now would be a good time to try and take one the other way with that hole between first and second, a runner on first base to try and first and third him.
One ball, two strikes. I was talking to one of the Royals officials before the game. You know, you have to have great scouts to identify talent. And so certainly there had to be a scout that said Ryan Madson can help this ball club. But you also have to have some luck that goes along with that. Because Ryan Madson had pitched in exactly one professional baseball game since 2011. One.
Yeah.
He didn't pitch at all last year. He missed all of 2012 with the injury. And he pitched in one game in 2013 after the Tommy John surgery.
And here it is, the people that take a chance on him.
Runners heading down to second base, and they got him picked off. Urshela is nailed at second, trying to move up on that ball that was in the dirt.
Well, the right thing, he saw the ball go in the dirt, and he wanted to be aggressive to go to second, but I told you, this guy's like a backstop, and it was a one-hopper right out in front of the plate to him. So Urshela thrown out. It was really a pretty good play by Perez, and that's a tough slide there for Urshela going in head first.
Yeah, I think the ground won that collision. 2 down. So you have to have the scout to sell you on it as an organization. And certainly when you go into camp as a non-roster invite, it's a low-risk move.
Right.
But you have to get some luck goes your way, too.
But it's who pitching rich, bullpen rich.
Who could have foreseen, oh, yeah, he's going to pitch to a 170 yard. Guy hadn't pitched in 3 years.
No, but they felt maybe if he ever returns back to form like he was when he was in Philadelphia, he could certainly help us. But you're right. It's like finding a diamond in the rough.
And they found a keeper in Ryan Madson. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T UVerse, has more channels on the go than cable. Beautiful sunset here in downtown Cleveland. A tie game as we head to the 7th. Trevor Bauer, 19 out of 20 first pitch strikes tonight.
Locked in. 14 of the 20 hitters, 3 pitches or less.
And that's almost the exact opposite of what Chris Young was doing.
Oh, the exact opposite, no doubt.
He was 5 pitches or more, it seemed like.
9 out of the first 10.
.54 out of 70. I mean, he is just locked in. But it's a 1-1 game.
Well, here was the play of the night right here where 2 outs and Kane comes up and gets a triple, although out in right field, Moss made a tremendous attempt. Hits the wall and the ball came out of his glove with 2 outs and ends up getting a base hit. Hosmer did following that to give Kansas City their only run.
He fought one off and just, I mean, what do you think? Inches beyond the glove of Francisco Lindor for that RBI hit, too. 1 away. This was the 4th inning. 2 outs, and Kane drives one. Moss makes the catch, but he crashed into the wall, and the ball pops loose. And by rule, that is a live ball. He didn't secure it long enough. And then there's the hit just beyond the reach of Lindor by Hosmer. And that's the way it's gone for the Indians.
Well, Bauer hasn't let it bother him. He's continued to come out, and he's been excellent today. He really has. Just 3 hits. And this guy has 2 of them. Make it. Oh, yeah.
Mike Aviles from the outfield grass throws out Hosmer. 2 down. 9 in a row set down by Trevor Bauer. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pulowski.
Okay, Matt, Rick, let's head to New York. Mets taking on the Padres. 7th inning. Noah Syndergaard, a perfect game. It ends right there. Will Venable a base it up the middle. So that ends his perfect game bid. However, the Mets still have the lead 2-0 during the bottom of the 7th in New York. Matt?
All right, thanks, Al. With 2 down, Kendry Morales, the batter. He's 0 for 2 on the night. Oh, up and in. It nails Morales on the shoulder. Interesting that he's taking a long look at Bauer as he walks down the first baseline.
Well, he figures he's had great control all night long. How can the first pitch be right there at my shoulder? But you know what? He's got to pitch you inside. You know, nothing to it. Drop the bat in first base. That wasn't intentional.
So Morales aboard with 2 down, and that snaps that string of 9 in a row set down by Bauer. And Salvador Perez 0 for 2 is at the plate. In a weird sort of irony, former Indian Vinny Pastano was designated for assignment by the Angels in order to clear a roster spot for David Murphy, who was just acquired by the Angels from the Indians here tonight. The 0-1. To center field, Bourne makes the catch, and the inning is over on just 10 pitches. Trevor Bauer continues to fly through the Royals'
Tribe fans between the ages of 6 and 14. MVPs take part in exclusive events and receive cool gear to add to their collection. Visit Indians.com/TribeTownMVPs for more information.
Mike Avila shoots one up the middle, backhanded by the second baseman Infante, and Hosmer stretches over to make the grab, 1 down.
Boy, how many times nowadays do you see that play where a ball gets hit right past the pitcher, over the pitcher's mound, and you see either a second baseman or a shortstop standing there where, boy, back in the days, it used to be a base hit automatically.
In there for a strike to Jason Kipnis. Yeah, anytime you'd see a ball go by the pitcher, you figure it's a base hit.
No question. Now with the shifts and the way the defenses are, it's just a routine play now.
Missed inside. How about this one? Down in Arlington, the Rangers scored 5 in the bottom of the first against New York. The Yankees came back in the top of the second and scored 6.
They slapped them around yesterday, too.
And there hasn't been a home run hit.
Wow.
11 runs, no homers yet. Kipnis shoots one toward left center field. That is in the gap. It'll go to the wall. Kipnis will fire his way into second base. He's got a 1-out double. And that's worth celebrating because anytime you can get a ball between Dyson and Kane, that's doing something.
And his second straight game were 3 hits. I mean, that double, you're right. And I'll tell you what, Kane came awfully close to that ball. You get it past this guy here, folks, you deserve it. And I mean, Kipnis drills this ball into left center. And watch this. Boy, he didn't miss it by much. He was on his feet to track it down so he didn't get a triple. I'll tell you, he's one of the best in the business right there. But Kipnis gets a double. That'll be his 30th. And as I said, another 3-hit game. There you go. Jason Kipnis, 14 on the year. That's a go-ahead run here with 1 out in the 7th inning.
And it comes off Ryan Madsen, who doesn't give up many.
Right, he's tough. You're right.
Madsen came in with a 181 batting average against. Now Francisco Lindor trying to bring him home. Takes a strike. Back out of play.
Threw that little cutter in on him, boy, and buried it inside.
Lindor has struck out, grounded out, flied out tonight. He's down in the count, 0-2. And he strikes out, 2 down. Madsen went to work and put him away. Second strikeout for the Royals right-hander and pitching coach.
This is a veteran taking advantage of a young hitter right there. He wasn't going to give him anything to hit. He buried 2 cutters hit on his hands.
Dave Eiland's basically going out to say, look, Michael Brantley is Michael Brantley. He's 1 for 2 on the night. He's got a career batting average of .854 against us, so whatever you do here, don't give him anything good to hit. Officially, Brantley's career numbers against Kansas City coming into tonight were .335, 6 homers, 46. He's 1 out of 2 tonight with 2 stolen bases. They walked him his last time up, and it really appeared to be a situation with 2 guys already on base. They just weren't going to give him anything to hit. Actually, there was one guy on base at the time when Brantley was up.
Well, I'd be very careful if I was them right now with Brantley. If you walk him, you'd say, okay, fine. This is their money guy right here.
Madsen gets ahead with a quick strike. 12 out of 16 pitches have been strikes from this right-hander. Brantley shoots one at first. What a play by Hosmer. Wow. That saves the Royals and keeps this game tied at 1. Hosmer taking one away potentially from Brantley at least. Transmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Indians Live presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care coming up right after the ball game. Bottom third of the Kansas City order due up here. Alex Rios, Omar Infante, Gerard Dyson. Trevor Bauer has been sensational. He's given up just 3 hits.
He has been great tonight. Very aggressive, pounding the strike zone.
And if not for the unfortunate collision with the wall, he'd be pitching a shutout.
I mean, not much you could do there. It was a great attempt by Moss.
Upstairs took off.
Yeah, Bauer needed one of these starts, especially after the All-Star break. Struggled down in Cincinnati, struggled in his last start. Good curveball tonight, aggressive fastball.
The curveball's been exceptional, I suppose, because the fastball's been so good.
He established that, right. And then occasionally he'll throw that first pitch slider, strike one. He's been ahead of every hitter. Well, that's the key. The hitters are chasing that curveball because he's ahead. You know, if he was behind in the count, you throw that curveball, it's useless because they can take it. They don't have to swing at it. Figure they're not going to hit it anyway. But when you get to 2 strikes, they certainly do.
Slowly chopped. Urshela on the move. Has to short hop it. Flip it. Oh, what a play. He had no time to dawdle because Alex Rios can still get down the line quickly. And that is out number 1.
Well, he's been really solid at third base. He makes every play. You don't have to be fancy, just make the play. And he's been doing that since his call to the big leagues. Just get it.
Hit hard, deep left field. Brantley back. He's looking up off the top of the scoreboard, and it comes straight down. And going to third base, head first slide safely with a triple is Omar Infante. Boy, you talk about bad breaks. Trevor Bauer, I mean, yeah, it's hit a long way, but that ball hit the worst possible spot if you're Bauer because it went straight up in the air. Nothing Brantley could do. He's got to wait for it to come down now.
We saw one of those. When was it? Just the I don't know if it was yesterday.
It was a couple of days ago. It was on this homestand.
You know what, though? I will give Infante credit. He put his head down, and he busted it to get to third base with one out.
No question about it.
He's not a fast runner, but I'll tell you what, he was aggressive, and he was going to make him throw him out, and he got in there safely. So now they have to bring the infield in. Very aggressive play. Now, with Dyson up, you got to be heads up for a bunt, too. And I don't necessarily mean a squeeze play. It could be a safety squeeze. You've got the infield really tight at the corners. Aviles, Lindor in at the cut of the grass. This is a guy he's a slasher. He's going to just try to slap it to left field.
Oh, 1 pitch. Swing and a miss. Dyson went chasing.
Beautiful curveball there. No chance to hit it. I mean, it started out high, about head high. And guess what? It ended up out of the strike zone, and he took a half a swing. He's looking for a fastball he can just slap. Don't give it to him.
He bounced it. Nice block by Perez.
Boy, you know the pressure's on Roberto back there when you call for that breaking ball, because if he's going to bounce it, you have to block it. That's the go-ahead run in scoring position. He did a beautiful job here, just putting that chest protector to it, keep it right out in front, and look how quickly he jumps on it. He says, no way. Well done.
The 1-2. Down on the dirt.
Okay. Trying to get him to chase.
The 2-2. Oh, he tried to get one to come back over the inside corner, but it just missed.
Well, he wasn't going to throw him a strike with it. He wanted to show it to him. He thought he could get a swing on it. It was just in off the plate. It was a good pitch. Now he comes back with the curveball again, but you're going to have to throw it for a strike this time, I think.
You think the curveball, not the slider?
Right. No, make it going down. You can't hit it in the air. You hit the top part of the ball.
Well, he went for the high heat. And he ends up walking the speedy Dyson. So 2 on, 1 out. Top of the order now.
Very first walk tonight. He had him down. He buried him. He had a chance to get him. He didn't chase 2 curveballs, missed with a fastball.
Well, Alcides Escobar has been swinging at anything close in this series. So see if he can take advantage of his aggressiveness.
Well, this is a guy, again, he's going to be in the same boat, I think, like Dyson. They'll give him a fastball he can reach, because he can reach out of the plate and slap it the other way. Middle infielder's back. They're going to play for 2. Well, they're about middle of the infield. Escobar's grounded into 6 double plays.
Well, that's the thing you also have to worry about.
Yeah.
And Dyson could take off and steal a base. And
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. If he gets an opportunity, there's no doubt that they'll have him running. And then you'll say, do the Indians want to throw through? You know, they have their sign, even though Infante's average speed at best at third base.
Oh, going with a potential squeeze play, huh?
No, he's just checking all the defense.
Yeah, if it was a squeeze, it had Infante's surprised because he was only about 4 steps off the base.
Well, he'd have to break to home plate.
Snap throw and almost over Santana's head. He had a leap in the air.
Well, they're keeping a close eye on him, rightfully so.
The 1-0. He threw it by him.
Dyson will be looking now.
Chopped to second. Aviles goes to Lindor, one back to first, double play! Outstanding turn by Aviles and Lindor to get Bauer out of the inning. A 4-6-3 twin killer. We're still tied at 1.
We're going to make this our McDonald's. I'm loving it because what a great pitch by Bauer, and Aviles got it over to him. It was a fastball. Lindor turned it beautifully, and that pumped him up. Did you see Lindor? Bauer, he showed not much emotion, but I'll tell you, that was beautifully turned by those two.
Really good job by Mike Aviles as you see Wade Davis loosening up. This guy's been just unbelievable, almost unhittable. 0.42 ERA this year, but I'll go all the way back to spring training, Rick, in a drill that I remember watching on that little half field that they have with Mike Aviles in particular. Mike Sarbaugh would hit him ground balls at second base, and I would watch him field it and almost turn his back to first base and work on that quick fire to second, right like we saw him do on that double play ball. And it was just fun to watch him so quick with the hands and turn it. Almost looked like he was throwing while he was falling backwards. And I asked him about it. He said, well, I wouldn't teach kids to do this, but it's a matter of it's almost like an illusion. Not really falling backwards, but you fall back after you deliver the throw. But that was a perfect feed to Lindor, and that's what it took to get that double play turn. Santana swings at the first pitch and pops it up. 1 out. That'll bring up Brandon Moss. By the way, in that Yankees-Rangers game, I told you the Rangers scored 5 in the bottom of the first. The Yankees weren't done. They scored 11 runs in the top of the second inning.
Are you kidding me? Double digits, huh?
And
11 spots?
Still without a home run.
That's really hard to
Singles,
believe for them.
doubles, a triple. 11 runs in the second inning.
Wow.
So you're Texas, you score 5 in the bottom of the first. You're feeling pretty good about things, and then we're down 6.
Oh, man.
Still a long way to go in that one, though, as we've seen in that crazy ballpark.
That's no doubt about it.
White Sox putting it to Boston 8-2 there in the 7th at Fenway. Tampa Bay leading Detroit 5-1 in the 7th down in St. Pete, and that's David Price, who was pitching for the Tigers against his old club, and the Rays handing it to him right now. Angels lead the Astros 5-4. They're in the 4th. That one's been back and forth. A lot of runs scored early between the top 2 teams in the AL West. 1-1 pitch. Moss fouls it right back.
Had a good one to hit there. The Indians have out-hit the Royals today 8-4. But we have a 1-1 game late in this ball game.
Shattered the bat. And a bare hand grab and throw to get him. And that's Escobar with the shift on who threw him out 2 down. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Indians stole 3 bases in the first inning of this game, and they had a guy thrown out in that inning. 6 stolen bases in all. Last time they stole 6 against the Royals was in 1990. It's the 3rd time that they've had 6 steals in a game against Kansas City.
That's how they got on the board, was being aggressive after Bourne stole his 3rd base. Ball gets into left field on the throw, and they're on the board.
Rick, Royals general manager Dayton Moore has made a lot of solid moves to put this club together. But what might have been a franchise-changing trade was the deal they made to get James Shields and Wade Davis.
Yeah.
Because they got a number 1 starter in Shields.
Right.
And this guy's become a lights out.
You remember when they first got him, he was starting.
Yeah.
And he was just a very average starter. And then they ended up putting him in the bullpen. They did the same thing with Luke O'Shaver, who was a starter for him, their number 1 pick, first pick in the draft, and boy, they put him in the bullpen, and he was lights out, and their velocity goes up about 5 miles an hour from 92 to 97. Yeah, and he has been lights out. You're right. They found the right spot for him. Boy, the umpire's second time he's been drilled in the chest today. He's talking to Perez about it right now.
Shields, of course, was their big game James. That's what they called him, and he was Kansas City's big game James. He was their number 1 guy. Now in San Diego, signed a big offseason free agent contract, but Davis still here. 2-1 pitch, popped him up. And Hosmer makes the play. Indians go quickly. We'll head to the 9th, 1-1 our score. Sports Time, Ohio. Trevor Bauer, 93 pitches on the night, back out here to start the ninth. He's got Moustakas, Kane, and Hosmer due up. Indians bullpen is busy. Outside for ball one.
We haven't said that often.
No.
And tonight with Bauer on the mound, ball one.
Yeah, he's been, I think at one point he was probably 80% strikes thrown.
Uh-huh.
Popped him up, back out of play. Checked his swing and a foul right back.
Boy, just a glancing. He didn't want to swing, but it glanced off the bat.
Missed inside, not by much. Whew.
He's thrown a couple good fastballs inside just off the plate that the Kansas City hitters took. But I'll tell you what, it's a great pitch. It's in off the plate. Perez tried to pull it back a little bit.
Popped him up. Santana's under it. And he hangs on, one down.
Well, that's a new career high now for Trevor Bauer, going 8 1/3. Coming out into the ninth inning here.
Lorenzo Cain, the batter. His triple in the fourth set up the Royals' only run of the game. But even with that triple, he needed Eric Hosmer with 2 outs to knock him home, which he did back in that fourth inning. Since that hit by Hosmer with 2 down in the fourth, the Royals have had 1 hit in the game. And that was a triple by Omar Infante on another weird play that hit the top of the scoreboard and left, bounced straight up in the air.
You can't get any better for Trevor, because here's a guy that came into the game with 47 walks. You know, and he throws a lot of pitches. Boy, as aggressive as he was tonight, I don't know what his mindset was coming in or what they talked about, but whatever, it's worked.
Is it a combination of him being aggressive and facing an aggressive swinging lineup?
That, but no, he's thrown everything for strikes, curveball, fastball. He's been great. It's been a good combination.
It gets through the wickets on Aviles, and wow, Cain went down in a heap. He rounded first. I think he was thinking maybe I can get the second, but once the wheels went out from under him, he would have to stay at first base. So an error as the Royals with a runner with 1 out in the ninth.
Yeah, he just picked up a little too early on it. So it gives him a 1-out base runner. Let's see if Trevor can pick up his defense here. So both teams have made an error tonight. The error came around to, cost the Royals. That's how the Indians scored, on a throw by Perez, Salvador Perez, trying to get Bourne at third. Again, he's got to pay attention to him at first base. He's like Dyson. He can run, he can steal. He has 18 out of 21. He's going to give this guy a chance to swing the bat as hot as he's been.
Bauer gets ahead. Nice pick by Roberto Perez. That keeps Kane
it was.
At first base.
Both Perez boys behind the plate tonight have done a very nice job. There's a great pick right there, right into the glove. Any deflection whatsoever, he could advance a base.
I tell you what, this is another tough spot for the middle infielders in that should Kane break and Hosmer puts one in play, he goes the other way so well.
I'd make the second baseman cover. If he's stealing, we don't know how it's going or what pitch they're going to throw him yet. But he fought off a couple of pitches on the inside part of the plate to left field tonight.
Well, it seems like all of his hits have been the other way, at least the two today. But he did ground out the second bases last time up.
Yeah, he rolled over on one. But
last night he pulled 2 balls for hits to right field.
I almost think that first pitch, Trevor surprised him. He threw him a fastball. He might have been looking for a breaking ball to pull in the hole, to be honest with you.
That one's out of play to the left.
I mean, they use the center of the field. 35 to left, 48 to center. He's strong. This kid's strong. He's a little bit off the plate. He gets great extension. And he hit that home run yesterday to left center field. And if you mess around and you hang a breaking ball, he can certainly turn on it as well. But Bauer's got him down on the count 1-2, so he's going to be aggressive. See if he can get him to bounce, swing at that curveball. If they're thinking that, then you could start Kane.
He checked, but he didn't go.
I figured he'd come back with that pitch. It's been his money pitch tonight.
Runner goes on the 2-2 pitch. Throw down in time. Perfect throw. He got him. Oh, baby, what a throw by Roberto Perez. Lindor slapped the tag on Lorenzo Cain. He's erased for only the 4th time this year.
Well, Perez got Hamilton 2 times. This was a good fastball. He should have ran the pitch before, and they tagged him right on the shoulder. On the helmet, then the shoulder. He held on. He goes back to tag him again. He was out 3 times.
Hosmer rips one to deep right field, and the Royals take the lead. It looked like Bauer nearly had him struck out on the pitch before, but it missed for ball 3 to run the count full, and on the payoff pitch, Hosmer ropes one out of here. His 11th homer of the year. He's driven in 2 tonight. That gives him 19 RBIs this year against the Indians.
Well, and I think he was looking for that pitch from the very first pitch of this at bat, because it's been Bauer's, bread and butter. And he picked that one up off the ground and lined it out to right field. My goodness. Driven in both the Royals' runs, and that is a big hit. It was a great play, and boy, the very next pitch, they take the lead.
Kendry Morales looks at a ball in the dirt.
Right now, you just hope that Bauer can just keep it together, get this 3rd out of the inning, and get through it, because I don't know how you could pitch much better than he did tonight.
That one nailed Gary Cederstrom right in the chest protector. He says it's only the 5th or 6th time tonight. I'm on.
Right. He's had one of those nights back there. He's starting to laugh at it now, I think. There you go. Great job, Trevor.
Santana takes it himself to end the inning. Eric Hosmer with a 2-out solo homer to right field. Royals lead it 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the ninth. Furniture. Trevor Bauer pitched tremendous game tonight. He went 9 innings, gave up 2 runs on just 5 hits, struck out a half dozen, was aggressive, but he's on the short end of a 2-1 score because the Tribe has not been able to do anything once again offensively. The only run they scored came thanks to Michael Bourne, who singled, stole second, stole third, and came home on a misplay at third base. So once again, same old story for the Tribe. The offense just has not been able to put anything together. And tonight, they had a guy in Chris Young who really didn't have much early on, and they had opportunities but unable to cash in. Now they'll have to try to do it against one of the best closers.
Yeah, do it against the
league.
closer. Get that leadoff man aboard and see what happens.
Holland has 21 saves. He also has 3 wins out of the bullpen. He's not perfect. He's had 3 blown. Up the middle. And it's going to result in an out.
Boy, how about that?
That's unbelievable. I am absolutely stunned that that's an out.
Well, this is why they're the best team in the American League.
Well, I mean, it's a tremendous play, but how in the world did, Roberto Perez, I know he's not fast, but that play took forever to develop.
Look at, and he knew what to do with it when he had it. He had it by a solid step. What a play. I mean, that's heads up right there, and they get the leadoff man. That's just a great play all the way around. Look at that. This team can do it all. I got to tell you, they can play defense. They are a solid ball club.
Michael Bourne, 2 singles, 3 stolen bases, and the only run scored in the game for the Indians. I think he can't believe it.
No.
He's probably thinking that's got to be a base hit up the middle.
And even when the second baseman doesn't make the throw, he flips it to the shortstop and he makes it.
2-1 to count on Bourne.
Yeah, you'll see that play a number of times on highlights.
Outside. 3 balls and a strike. Mike Aviles waiting on deck. Needs somebody to reach to get a chance for Kipnis to bat. And they've got a base runner. Tying run aboard with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th.
Boy, leading off the inning. Watch this play one more time. Infante backhands, flips to Escobar, over to Hosmer in plenty of time. Wow, well done.
Well, here's Mike Aviles. He's 0 for 2. He walked in the second, flied out, grounded out since then. And takes a strike. Trevor Bauer hoping to see the offense rescue him here in their last at bat. 0-2. Two-strike pitch. Uh-oh. Steps on the bag, double play, ends the game. Kipnis will not bat here in the bottom of the 9th, and the Indians lose it by a final score of 2-1. Now the Indians' losing ways continue here at Progressive Field. They've now lost 8 straight at home for the first time since 1975.
Wow, I'll tell you what, that is unbelievable. Take a look at our Pat O'Brien play of the game, and it is a play of the game because they just threw out the base runner Kane at second base the very next pitch. I'll tell you, Hosmer had to be looking for that curveball from the very first pitch. He hit that ball out, a line drive, drove in both runs. Boy, the Pat O'Brien play of the game. Eric Hosmer, what a year he's had against the Indians. He's turned into a Miguel Cabrera against the Tribe this year.
Well, and you're watching a team that's playing with great confidence. I mean, sky-high confidence. They didn't get a very good pitching performance from their starter, Chris Young, tonight, but the Indians couldn't score. And so it was a 1-1 ball game, and once you go up against their bullpen, it makes it very difficult to get anything going offensively. And they got one big hit from Hosmer in the 9th to win the ball game. And then Holland closed him out in the bottom half. And the Indians have lost 6 in a row overall, 45-54 on the year. But the 8 straight at home, boy, they're 19-32 this year here at Progressive Field.
That's something that's hard to believe. And, you know, well, you got to score to win. And they didn't even drive in a run tonight. It was a stolen base. It was being aggressive. But they're going to have to find a way. They're going to have to hit their way out of this thing. We keep talking about it night in and night out. Let's go, boys. You got to hit.
Well, with the win, Kansas City is now 61-38 on the year. The winning pitcher is Wade Davis. He's 7-1. The save to Greg Holland, his 22nd. The loser, Trevor Bauer. He went 9 innings, gave up just 2 runs, but he falls to 8-8 now on the season. Series finale tomorrow at 1 o'clock. At noon. High noon series finale tomorrow here at Progressive Field. Stay tuned. We're back with Indians Live presented by Conrad's coming up next.